So many things going on in the world that it's just a really fun time, I think, to be alive and to be in the workplace because everything is changing. And it's really a good time to be experimental and to try new things and just sort of pioneer where we're going. And I think that's really all of our jobs, is to be pioneers of this future, which is why I call it future work and future talent, because I think we're shifting our whole idea about pretty much the whole concept of work and how we do it and why you should do it. And it's really going to look totally different in 10 years. So I think, first of all, just a little background on some of this, that, you know, the 20th century was really in this blue circle here. It was a transactional, structured, pretty formal way of getting everything done. And it worked well when you have poor communication channels. It was really hard for most of the 20th century to communicate to people. So if you wanted to tell everybody in your company how to do something, it wasn't easy. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have tools that we have today. And so we developed a hierarchical process of delivering that information down and up and down the chain, mostly down the chain to the bottom of the group. And it was pretty much one-way communication, and it was very formal. And the internet changed everything. And I'll show you a graph in a minute about some of those things. But the bottom line is, probably the internet is as big an invention as electricity was, or the steam engine. It pretty much changed everything in our lives. And if you were old enough to remember the pre-internet days, you can remember how vastly different it was. Or maybe you can't remember it because it's hard to even think back to when you didn't have the internet. But it's really about informal communication, constant communication, all the time communication. If anything happens in your company, literally everybody knows it immediately. It doesn't really matter anymore where you are in the world. You can know what's going on in your company, your country, whatever it is. You can get instant communication. You couldn't in this world. And just that one fact is probably the biggest reason why flexible work and other kinds of work are emerging as major trends, okay? If for no other reason, all right? So when we really look at this, there's all kinds of stuff going on in the world. It's just absolutely mind-boggling when you look at what's happening in the world. You've got all kinds of economic changes in the world, pretty much all enabled by the internet. So corporations can locate anywhere. In America, there's a huge trend to move your corporation to whatever country in the world has no taxes. So you move your headquarters to the Bahamas, to the Cayman Islands, to wherever, and huge companies are moving their entire senior leadership team and executive headquarters to these places virtually. They don't really go there, but that's where the legal address is. That's where they do business, and they pay no taxes. So how do governments deal with that? You know, so this is like virtual corporations, like that. You've got free labor in Europe now with the EU. People are moving all over Europe, creating all sorts of issues in Europe. So if you're in the Netherlands or the UK, the number one topic is immigration. And you don't have to immigrate, you can just go because it's legal as part of the EU. So anybody in any EU country can move to any other EU country with no visas, no requirement, just pack up and move. And so what do you do when you have thousands of people come into your country and theoretically take jobs away from the people who theoretically are citizens of that country? And what does that mean? So huge issues there. You've got huge rise of part-time and contingent work that we're going to talk a lot about today. And all sorts of Bitcoin and the changing in banking and what's going on in the whole financial market. So this is just a taste of what we already are in and what's coming. Then we've got structural changes. We're getting older. You just heard from Carol about what's happening here in New Zealand. And not only older, but changing the nature of the workforce and the people who work in your country. From a predominantly European background to predominantly Asian or other background. These are big cultural shifts that are happening, not just in New Zealand, but all over the world as people become more mobile, living a lot longer. You know, your children, any child born today will almost 100% live to be more than 100 years old, all right? Easily, that'll just be normal. And so when your kids live to be 100, that changes everything about how you think about work, about what you do. You might have 3 careers. I can be a doctor for 30 years and I'll be a lawyer for 30 years. And we kind of laugh at that, but why not? You know, you could easily do that. So this is just a big shift. Automation, robotics, massive impact. And I'll show you a little bit more about that later. And then of course the internet. And then we've got attitudes, which all are driven partly by what's happening here. But, you know, you want a lot more choice and flexibility because you can. You can live anywhere. You can work anywhere. So why should I just stay here? You know, why not go live in Bali? You know, I got the internet. What more do I need? And so this is the attitude: desire for variety, continuous learning, travel, live different places, go see the world. I don't want to just stay in New Zealand. I want to go everywhere, but I still want to work. And so why can't I just work for wherever I am? And you want a lot of different careers and a global focus on everything. So these are just some of the things that are happening out there. And then you say, gee, why do people don't want to come work for me? Well, guess why? It's not hard when you really look at what's happening out there. If you're 20 years old, why would I want to go spend 20 years working for one company in one little spot in the globe when I could work anywhere, travel, do all sorts of things, and maybe have 3 or 4 careers? Right? So a whole different world. So this is kind of some of the stuff that's driven this. The green stuff are the foundations. The internet, social media, mobile technology. Just think of what you have in your pocket today. Everybody in this room has more power than they had when they went to the moon in their pocket, all right? You have an incredible amount of computing power at your fingertips. You can pretty much work from your mobile phone. That's amazing, absolutely mind-boggling. Imagine your grandparents or great-grandparents coming back and having you say, I could work from my phone. You know, they wouldn't even know what a phone was. All right? And then you've got the cloud, where everything is going out there somewhere. We don't even know really where that is. And big data and analytics, okay? And what we can learn from that information in the cloud. And I can learn all kinds of immense stuff about you. And then we've got the Internet of Things. How many of you know what that is? How many of you have a Fitbit or some other thing that measures your walking or whatever? Anything you wear in your body that measures something about you. How far you walk, how fast you run, what your heart rate is, what your blood pressure is. That's an internet, that's a thing connected to the internet, and they call it the Internet of Things. And you're going to see a huge burst of these over the next 3 or 4 years. And it's going to be embedded in your clothing, it's going to be in your glasses, it's going to be in your jewelry. You're going to have things you can wear in pretty much every part of your body, and they'll track all kinds of different things, including where you are. You give your kids a little bracelet or something, you'll know where they are every minute. You can already kind of do that if they have a mobile phone. I ask a lot of people why they give their elementary school children a phone, just so they know where they are. They can track them on GPS. Okay? So you'll have an RFID chip implanted in your skin, so you don't have to have a passport anymore. You just wave your hand. This stuff is all right here today. It's here. So this whole Internet of Things is going to change a lot of what we do. Predictive analytics, where I can look at the data about you and predict, in recruiting, I can predict who's going to be the better employee in your company. I can predict pretty accurately when you're going to quit your job. I can predict pretty accurately that you're in financial trouble. I can predict all these things just by analyzing stuff in the cloud about you. Okay? Robotics, massive impact on work. Lots of work is going to be replaced. And then virtual reality, which will allow you to simulate being in your place of work, even though you might be far, far away. But I could actually simulate the office. I could look at this room and look just like this, even though I was in the United States. Okay? And you would even see me holographically standing here. And I've actually seen this from Cisco Systems, and it's really weird to see a 3D person who's not really there. Okay? And this is coming any day now. So this is all the stuff that's coming. And then in here, we got things, I put these in here mainly around recruitment, but things like algorithms automate almost everything talent. We'll be able to recruit people completely automatically through these tools. Okay? And this sounds really weird and futuristic. It's available today. You can buy tools that do this right now. The only thing stopping us is our own fear and sometimes lack of resources. But it's all here, right? And this is where we're going. So huge changes coming. And so when you start looking about a flexible workforce, it just seems like a no-brainer. You know, if you don't have a flexible workforce, you might as well just go home, forget it, it's over, all right? So opening virtual borders, virtual global workforce. New Zealand has incredible talent shortages. You're already using workers in India and other places to read x-rays, to do other medical diagnostic work. You're a small country, you could have any talent you need as long as you're willing to employ it virtually. And why not? You can. So why worry about talent shortages in New Zealand? You don't have a talent shortage. You have a mental barrier of thinking. That's the challenge, okay? And if you change that mental barrier, you have talent all over the world that would love to work for New Zealand, virtually. So skill, not geography, is the king. The 20th century, geography was a limiting factor. It's not anymore. Geography is irrelevant, okay? We can share data and ideas everywhere. We're collaborating more and more on a global basis and sharing more and more on a global basis. And why is this going on? Obviously, we need just enough. We need just in time. We need temporary experts sometimes, and we can't find scarce talent. So you can go out to the world and get that, but you've got to be able to work both flexibly and virtually to do that. So we're going to move to flexible work arrangements. We have to shift to virtual tools and processes. We've got to really reach out globally and focus on the talent you need wherever it is and however it wants to work. And I can't stress that so too much. If they want to work anywhere in New Zealand or Australia or the world, that's fine, as long as they can contribute to you. So ultimate flexibility is the key to success. I firmly believe that. And the robots are coming, and many jobs are going to be replaced with them. McKinsey thinks about 90 million people will be unemployable because of robots. That's a picture of McDonald's in Sydney, where you just order your food off a kiosk. They have 2 employees in the McDonald's, and they're in the back, and they bring the food out for you. And I saw a machine in California the other day that makes 350 hamburgers an hour completely automatically. So you won't even need the 2 people in the back anymore. Okay? So this is a big factor on what's going on. We've got 53 million freelancers in America. That's around 20% of our workforce is in freelance of some sort. And by freelance, I mean they're flexible workers, basically. They work how they want, when they want, and for who they want. And they have pretty much control over that whole process. And they're really on the on-demand workforce, and that's what we're getting. Uber is a good example of that. They're not employees. In fact, they're in a gray area of the law. We don't really know what they are. They're not really independent contractors because they don't really have a contract. They just kind of are there, and when you need one, you get in your phone and you dial one up and they come, and they get a percentage of the fee. That's how they get paid. They work whenever they want, however they want, wherever they want, and they're totally in control. So the guiding principle really is choice, not social pressure, not laws, not regulations. It's about choice. And this entrepreneurial mindset is the dominant mindset of the emerging worker. I don't care what age they are, this is the mindset. Do it my way, do it in a flexible way, and if you can't adapt as employers to that, you're going to be on the losing end of the proposition.